we will always have a database server. Okay. Now database server consists database instance and database. Database is nothing but set of data files and other system files. Okay. Again, data files are the files uh, which are stored it, which are created it operating system, and these are the files which contain actual user or application data. While the system files, we have not yet discussed what are those files. We will be discussing one by one, but these are the file which contains the metadata and other controlling data. Okay. Then we also talked about database instance. A database instance is nothing but it is a group of memory which is also called RAM and processes. We had seen two types of processes, foreground processes, that is also called server processes, and background processes. Okay. We had also seen the flow of transaction or a request. So first, the request is initiated by a client with the help of network. It connects to the listener. Listener hands over the connection to the server process, and it is the server process which does everything, which processes the request. Okay. We further gone into understand the database instance. So database instance had system global area, program global area, server processes, background processes. Yesterday we also talked about the fundamentals of, what exactly the SGA, what is the PGA. Now the next thing we need to understand each component. Okay, we briefly talked about the server process. We also talked about the background processes. Now we need to go further and understand what are these components, what type of data they store, and what is their role when they execute SQL transaction. Good so far? Does this summary help what we learned yesterday? Great. So let's start talking about system global area. Okay. So SGA, it is a part of memory structure. Okay. It is basically a memory area which is used by server and background processes. This particular area is shared area. That means all the background processes and all the server processes can work in this area. They can use this area to do their work. Okay. Now, when this instance created, when this system global area, when this SGA is created, when this PGA is created, okay, when the background processes and server processes created. So these all processes created when we start our database. Okay, we have something called a parameter file. Okay, we are going to see the sequence of database startup. What happens when database startup? Okay, and how does it starts? For now, when the database starts, what it does, the first thing it creates the instance. When I say it creates the instance, it allocates the memory to the SGA. Okay, it allocates the memory to PGA. Okay, it creates the number of server processes. It creates the number of background processes. Okay, now we will see how much SGA is allocated. Where do we configure the size of SGA? That we will see when we'll talk about database startup sequence. Okay, for now, when the database is started up, the database is brought up, that time database instance is created. A database instance is created or started up means SGA, the memory to the SGA, memory to the PGA is allocated, and processes, server processes are created. They are at OS, these processes are created. Okay. Now we need to talk about what all component SGA has. Okay. So if I come from the high level, we have database server. In database server, we have database instance in database itself. In the database instance, we have SGA. So now we are talking about the SGA. Further in SGA, these all components are there. Okay, they all are memory segments. Okay. If we start with shared pool, so shared pool is a memory component, okay, which is a part of SGA. Okay. Now, what does share pool do? Okay. So, shared pool stores parsed SQL statement. Okay, let me tell you what does it store. It is stored parsed SQL statement, or if there is any PL SQL code, that PL SQL code is also there in parsed mode. Okay. Now, do we guys understand what is the meaning of parsing? SQL statement parsing?
Not striking at this point of time.
Is it means that like the SQL statement gonna execute? I mean, you send the SQL statement to be executed.
Exactly. So this is the first step of the execution. For example, I write a query, select all from a table called employee. Okay. Now, parsing a SQL statement means verification, or the better word is validation of SQL statement. When we say database is parsing the SQL statement, that means it first takes the syntax of the SQL statement. Is the syntax of the SQL statement is correct? Okay. So it performs syntax check. Second, it performs semantic check. So when we say a statement is being parsed, that means a statement is being validated by database. Now, what type of validation database does is first check the syntax of the SQL statement. Okay. So for example, if you forgot to mention the table name, so you will get the error, something is missing in the SQL statement. So where do we get this error from? So database performs the syntax check. That means database parse the statement, and if it finds correct, then it further processes the statement. So syntax check means it checks whether the SQL statement is written properly or not. Is anything missing in the statement? Now semantic checks. What are the semantic checks? So the first thing, see, we are selecting the data from a table. First thing, does EMP table exist in the database? Second thing, if you are executing this statement, okay, obviously you need to connect to the database first. So you must have connected to the database using some username and password. So does that user has access on this table? So it checks if table exists in the database. Second thing, it checks if user has appropriate privileges to access the table. Okay. For example, there is a this table is owned by user 1 and you are connected as user 2, and user 2 doesn't have permission on this table, and if you try to execute this statement as a user 2, you will get that table does not exist. Why? Because user 2 does not have privilege to access the table. Okay. So when we say parsed SQL statement, that means suppose in your session, you have executed this statement already. Today morning at 10 o'clock, you have executed this statement, and again at 11 o'clock, you are executing this statement again. So you need not to parse this statement again. Okay. The moment it will see this statement, the database will see this statement, it will not go to parse the statement again, and it will pick and start executing this statement. It will start selecting the data from this statement. It's not going to check if you already have this statement parsed. So shared pool, it stores parsed statement. Okay. Let me tell you, when it comes to database performance or SQL tuning, a lot of time is spent on parsing an SQL statement, because in your production database you keep getting SQLs. Okay, in an hour you might get millions of SQLs executing in your instance. So if they keep spending their time on parsing again and again, obviously the time of the entire transaction will be impacted. Okay, so are you good with what is parsing of SQL statement?
So state pool will not be having the invalid statement like
No,
table not existing. Okay.
no, it will not.
And where is the step when I get the results back? It's the last step, right?
Sorry, Esther, can you please come again? Where do we get the
Where
statement?
is the step when I pass the SQL statement and I get the result set back, like the content of the table?
So that is the last step. First step is the parsing. Second step is the execution of the SQL statement. And the last
Okay.
step is the fetching the data and sending back to the user. A lot many thing happens in the execution also. We are going to see. So when an SQL comes for execution, if it finds already parsed statement, so it doesn't parse the SQL, and that is called soft parsing. Okay. So what is soft parsing? When SQL is not parsed or already parsed. Okay. So that parsing is called soft parsing. While the hard parsing is what? When SQL is actually validated. So whenever the SQL hits the system for the first time, it will always perform the hard parse. When it hits the second time and it finds the parsed statement, it will be called soft parsing. Okay.
Is
So
this
shared,
do you
yes,
mean like this is inside a single connection? If I reconnect to the server, do I have to do the hard parsing again?
no. See, this is the system's global area. It is not the program's global area. This is system's global area. So if a statement is here, it is shared by all the sessions which will be connected to the database. So for example, if you have uh, executed an SQL at 10 o'clock in the system, okay, and 10 minutes back, Keshav executes the same statement from other sessions. So he will find already parsed statement here. Okay, this is system's global area. So what we learned, this area is shared by server processes. Okay, so when you connect to the database instance, you have your server process. When Keshav will connect to the server database instance, it will have its own server process. But both the server process can share this area. Okay, so if any parsed SQL is stored here, it will be accessible to all the user sessions.
So state pool
Does it
will have all the past queries executed by all the users. Is it?
by all the users? Yes, by all the users.
Okay.
So Ishtar, are you good? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Sorry if you are.
And over a period of time, like it will keep on increasing, right? Lot of hundreds or thousands of people will be querying, or lot of jobs will be doing updates to the database. So all that you're saying that it will be written to the shared pool, means
Yes.
it will
So
be
if
passed and it will be. Mhm.
it will be stored. If the shared pool runs out of space, runs out of space, then what it will do? It will wipe off the least recently used parsed statement. So LRU, it works on the least recent used algorithm. So suppose if you have executed an SQL statement 10 days back, okay, and since last 10 days nobody has executed that statement, and shared pool is experiencing space crunch. So what it would do, it will wipe off, or it will remove the oldest transaction which is not in use.
So everything will be written into the disks, or like if server has been like a database is brought down, means I mean Oracle server itself is brought down. So shade pool will still be having those queries stored into the
No,
disk, or like it's in the memory.
no. So when you bring down the database, what you will do? You will deallocate the allocated space. You will bring down the instance. When the instance is brought down, your memory will be deallocated. So whatever memory is allocated to SGA, to server pool and all other components, it will be deallocated. And next time when you bring up the database, it will be all empty.
Okay.
It is not written into any file, but it, it is kept in the memory. And the moment you bring down
Okay.
the database instance, it will be gone away.
Can I just like shut down only the database without the instance? So the system global area will remain? Or
No,
you mean that I keep everything in memory, or this is not possible?
no, this is not possible. The first step of bringing up the database is to bring up the database instance. And the first step of bringing down the database is to see, instance is the medium to access the database. Data
Yeah, but
files are
if I have a pluggable database, I'm just, like a USB stick, I'm just gonna just plug it out and then plug it in somewhere else.
no. So pluggable database has its own instance. So if you are refreshing pluggable database, if you are rebooting pluggable database, its instance will go away.
Oh, okay.
So what I am trying to say, see, database is what? Data files and all other system files. Okay, it is the instance that we bring up and bring down. Okay, so when we bring up instances, it opens the data files and other files for access. The files are already there on the disk. So what instance does? Instance opens up those files to get accessed. So basically it is the instance which is brought up and brought down. Your data files are already there. So it's only the instance which comes up and comes down. So to answer your question for now is, if we bring down the database instance will go away. And next time when it is brought up, we need to uh, start from the zero. Okay. And I'm happy that you guys are getting questions around database startup and shutdown. So keep your question intake for now. I remember all the questions. I'm collecting it. And when we go on discussing the startup sequence, see, we are going to take entire session to understand what happens when the database startups. What are the modes of database startup? Okay. In the same way, the modes of database shutdown. So all your
Yeah,
queries will get resolved.
that's what that I think that was very strange for me. If I just shut down database like shut down immediate, it is
Hmm.
very quick, but if I am gonna start up it again, it needs a lot of time to mount and to open. And then I get all the feedback from SQL plus buffer size and so on.
Yes, yes. It takes time because based on how we are bringing down the database, the next time it comes up, it performs a lot of recoveries. So when you bring down database immediate, okay, what it does, whatever transactions are in progress, it has to deal with those transactions. Okay, based on the setting you have done for the database, either those transactions are committed or rolled back. Now, suppose if you have a long running transaction in your system, which is updating somewhere around 10,000 rows, then for so far, by the time you are trying to bring down the database, it has updated 9,000 rows and you are bringing down the database. Now, what it will do if you are to roll back those transactions, those 9,000 transactions are rolled back. That's where it takes the time. So, usually, you have seen that when there is no load on the system or off peak hours, when the business is not much, you will find that your database comes down very quickly. And if you try to bring down the database in peak hours, when the transaction load is high on the database, you will find that database takes time to come down and then again come up. So we were talking about shared pool. So shared pool is again the memory component, part of SGA. It holds parsed SQL statement. It holds parsed PL SQL code. Along with that, it also stores or holds a very important component called data dictionary. Okay. So data dictionaries are nothing but these are views and tables. Okay, which are stored in either system table space or in sysocs table spaces. Okay. So, Keshav, if you are not familiar with the word table space, it's okay. Okay, you can leave it. You can consider is the data file. So, data dictionary is what? These are the views and tables. So, if you remember in a very first session, Easter asked about where can I get the details of data files.
So
So,
all the views like vSession, DBA users and so on are also data dictionary.
yes, they are the part of dictionary. Even this DBA data file, these are the views. So, data dictionary is nothing but it holds the view in tables, which further holds the information of the database. Okay, the data about the data, it holds the metadata of the data. Okay, so when this SQL statement was parsed, okay, where did database get the information whether this table exists in the database or not? So these views are accessed. It gets the information from the dictionary whether this table exists or not. So data dictionary is nothing but holds the metadata of the data. Okay. So does employee table exist? Yes, it exists. Is it a part of user one user? Yes, it is a part of user one user. Does user two has the access? So there are lot many views which holds or tables which holds this data. And when the statement is passed, these data dictionaries are read. The details are read from the data dictionary. And this shared pool stores the data dictionary in the shared pool. So when the database instance is started, what it does, it reads the dictionary from the data files and uploads in the shared pool. So when any SQL statements comes for execution as a part of parsing, it refers the data dictionary for parsing. Okay. If data dictionary is not kept here in the shared pool, it will be read from the data file. Data files are stored on the disk. So reading the data from the disk is very costly in terms of performance. It
Is
takes a
it?
lot of time. Yes. One.
I'm sorry. Um, like you said, if I start a database, it will load everything in shared pool from the data dictionary. Is it like an automatically thing? Is it enabled by
Yes.
default, or do I have to set some settings?
No, no, we need not to do that. It is the default behavior of Oracle.
Thank you.
Okay. So if I summarize, shared pool, what shared pool stores? It stores parsed SQL, parsed PL SQL code, and data dictionary information.